バギー船長、港の空に何か見えます。撃ち落とせ。
I don't think I'm the only one in the fandom who didn't really think much of Buggy the Clown when he first showed up. I'd put him in the box of one of the many pirate antagonists that existed for Luffy to whoop their asses on his road to getting his first set of Nakama and heading towards the Grand Line, which to me was where his journey really took off. I'd written of Buggy as belonging to the same annals that had Captain Kuro, Don Craig, Axe and Morgan, and to some extent Arlong. Now, before you start commenting about how integral Arlong is to the Fishman Island arc and Jinbei, I know, that's why I said to some extent. So as I was saying, I'd written of Buggy after Luffy sent him flying off without the rest of his chopped up parts. I thought Buggy was donezo. Ha! Says a lot about what I knew, because then he kept popping up. We follow him as he meets up with my man Gaimon, which by the way was when I was like, you know what, Buggy is not that bad. I mean, anyone that Gaimon likes in my book can be two bag and egg, since Gaimon, as we can all agree, is a pretty good judge of character. So he meets up with Gaimon, gets picked up by Alvida, gets reunited with his crew, and we see just how much they actually love him. Of course, they aren't at the Straw Hat level of being willing to go to the ends of hell itself to save and help their captain and be with him. Few pirate crews are like that, but then again, other pirate crews don't have Monkey D. Luffy as their captain. But anyway, Buggy's crew does show a certain level of loyalty and love for him. And then we fast forward to Rogue Town, Impel Down, Marineford, and Buggy stopped being the joke. Or rather, the joke became just how well things seemed to work out for him as he gained prominence, a shit ton of powerful pirates who joined his crew, and the next thing we know is a Shishibukai, and then, spoiler alert for those who aren't caught up on the manga, a yonko. And I've spent the last week trying to figure out how we got to this point, what Oda is thinking or has been planning, and exactly how on earth Buggy rose to this level. Now, I would like to state at this point that this is a lot of theorizing because I'm not a mind reader, but I'm drawing these theories from what we've read and seen in the story. Also, there will be spoilers for those not caught up. So if you're an anime only and hate spoilers, or you haven't caught up at all and don't want to be spoiled, then maybe consider skipping this video. Now, back to Buggy and exactly how Oda has written his character, and why I think, although it is absolutely ludicrous and completely craptastic, it makes perfect sense considering the story we're following so far, that Buggy is now currently at Yonko level. I've seen a lot of people make their own theories. I particularly like Vinland's This Is Why Gorosei won Buggy's theory video, which I will link in the description box. And I've also seen people just ascribe it to Oda being as he always does and trolling the power scaling fans, whose camp is now in disarray, because if the conversation has always been Yonko is stronger than admirals, which is why the Marines needed both the admirals and the Shishibukai to keep them contained, then how do we justify Buggy, who was defeated by Luffy in the East Blue, making it to these hollowed ranks? Now, the easy response to the point would be that it is possible that Buggy had displayed an awesome hidden power when we were locked away with the Straw Hats, the Scabbards, the Heart Pirates, the Kid Pirates, Luffy and the rest of the samurai in Wano, and honestly, that could be it. But I feel a lot differently about that. I think that Buggy got his Yonko position fair and square, and when we examine the qualities the present batch of Yonkos have in common, it would hopefully be clearer to you as well. So, if at any point anything I'm saying makes even a little bit of sense, then please consider liking this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and share as well. Now we'll start things off with something Doflamingo mentions to Vice Admiral Suru when he's in chains and bound for Impel Down after his defeat in Dressrosa. He asks her exactly who is ruling the seas, if it's the Yonkos or the Shishibukai who have learned to cleverly navigate the seas and their roles, or the members of the World's Generation, or the Marines. He of course says that the present ruler of the seas are the Marines with their military might, but that now that everyone's vying for that seat of supremacy at the top of the pirate hierarchy, things will change as alliances will be made and some will be broken. And we already saw that when we came into Wano. Luffy and Law's alliance was still strong, and they brought in the samurai, the minks, and a ninja to complete the alliance. We also saw his prophetic words come into being with Apu betraying Kid and Hawkins, the latter who then allied with Kaido to bring further damage to Kid in a bid to bring him to heel and under Kaido's control. With Doflamingo's words, we see someone who understands the system very well and has perfected the art of manipulating the system system, which is of course why he ascribes the quality of cleverness and intelligence to the Shishibukai, a group he had been a part of up until his defeat at the hands of Luffy. Now, I know some people have been complaining about Buggy's power boost in the story ever since he became a Shishibukai, as they just could not understand how someone like him could have made it to that position, and to them, Buggy becoming a yonko just confirmed that they had been right all along. But if we take Doflamingo's words into account, then to be a Shishibukai goes beyond just having raw strength and power. After all, we can say that not all members of the Shishibukai are created equally. Clearly, their power levels vary greatly, but they have been able to successfully navigate that role because they are quite clever pirates who know exactly how to game the system to boost their power. And we see that with Crocodile in Alabasta, and just how well he had the people of Alabasta convinced that he was someone he isn't, and how they practically worshipped the false version of him that they thought was real. The same can be said for Doflamingo himself, and how the people of Dressrosa perceived him, and how he used that perception to consolidate his power. Boa Hancock did the same to some extent in Amazon Lily and with the Marines and the world government, who still have no idea that she was a former slave of the Celestial Dragons. And then you have Kuma, who was able to warp both the Marines and other pirates' perception of him so well that they still don't know that he is or was allied with the Revolutionary Army. And Gekomora is one of the weakest Shishibukai on his own, but was able to consolidate his power by the clever use of his subordinate and his devil fruit. Understanding exactly how to use your brains to amass power for yourself seems to be something that a large portion of the OG Shishibukai pre-timeskip did. They knew how to play their cards and play them to their advantage. And before you mention Mihawk, honestly, we still don't really know much about Dracul Mihawk compared to the others. The man gives me lone wolf vibes, like he really doesn't care. So it's an anomaly in this case. But excluding him, those who didn't play their cards well lost the game, as seen with Jinbei, who, to be quite real, didn't seem to want that title when he put him against the man whose protection kept his island safe, and whose son who was his friend, was about to be publicly executed. So if we can agree that it takes a certain level of intelligence to become a Shishibukai, then does it not stand to reason that Buggy, with his craftiness, therefore fits that bill? A lot of us like to refer to him as a big-time scammer and con artist, but then that means he's in very good company. He's learned how to play the system, and even if he doesn't have the physical power himself, he has powerful subordinates who can help him consolidate his power, kind of like Moira. And if we examine the last of the pre-timeskip Shishibukai, Blackbeard, and follow his journey on how he went from being a Shishibukai who was able to play the long con and has amassed quite the following of strong commanders for his fleet, all the way to him now being a yonko, then we can draw parallels between how Blackbeard went from a regular pirate to becoming a Shishibukai and then a yonko to Buggy's own journey as well. With Blackbeard, he played Whitebeard, played the world government to gain access to Impel Down, where he then armed himself with the strongest and most powerful pirates in level 6, and Shuri, of course, to join his crew. They escaped, went to Marineford, where Blackbeard stole. Whitebeard's devil fruit followed it up with fighting the rest of the Whitebeard pirates, claimed Whitebeard's former territories, and have since been amassing even more power and notoriety. Now, we know that Blackbeard used these underhanded ways to cement power for himself and used that to propel himself to the very top to hit Yonko status. The same can be said for Buggy as well, except his ways are not as underhanded. Rather, he's used his wits, is always ready to take on accolades and praise that don't belong to him. Hey, if you aren't going to claim it, he's going to use it. It's not like Luffy wants all that praise anyway, and Buggy knows when to shut his mouth when people are ascribing things to him that is never done, or misinterpreting his actions to mean something utterly different than what he had planned. He's just been cleverly coasting and going with the flow of the times, which have managed to work out well for him. Which brings me to the second thing, luck. And honestly, if you've been following the story that is One Piece and haven't realized just how important a role luck plays in many characters' lives, I don't know what to say except you need to pay better attention. Now, of course, Luffy's story is riddled with his luck. Sometimes it's a case of him just being in the right place at the right time. Other times it speaks to the force and strength of his spirit, and the rest of it is just Luffy ends up with a if I die mindset, whilst Lady Fortune is all
not on my watch.
And the same can be said for the rest of the Yonko. Blackbeard's luck saw his planning paying off as he was perfectly positioned on Whitebeard's ship to kill Thatch and steal the Yami Yami no Mi, which was the fruit powers he used to defeat Ace, hand him over to the Marines, which got him the Shishibukai position that opened the doors to him getting into Impel Down, where even though he was poisoned by Magellan and would have died, his luck held out until Shuri gave him the antidote. Shanks' luck placed him on Roger's ship as an apprentice, definitely played a role in helping him rise up in the pirate world, was instrumental in his meeting with Luffy, the boy who reminded him so much of his old captain that he gave him his hat. Even the luck that had him arrive in time to save Luffy from being hidden by the Lord of the Coast is luck that both he and Luffy benefit from. Luffy in that he would have died otherwise, and Shanks in that the boy who had eaten the devil fruit he stole from the world government, the boy he would eventually give his straw hat to, the boy who had the same ideals and words as his captain, would have died and he wouldn't have been able to stop it. Luck is just as important when you spend your life on a mistress as fickle as the sea, and a pirate with bad luck is soon to be a dead one. As such, we can say that a yonko with bad luck is soon buried in a pool of magma, with the fandom having debates on whether or not they survived. Buggy's rise to power is partly based on his craftiness, yes, but a large part of it is intertwined with his luck. He's at the right place at the right time with the right people who are the movers and shakers of the world, and is able to coast off their power to gain influence for himself. Yes, it takes a good amount of intelligence, but we honestly cannot discount the role luck plays in it. We also cannot ignore the role charisma has on this as well. And I know a lot of people have said several times that Blackbeard doesn't have charisma, but I beg to differ. His charisma might not be the happy light of Luffy's, but he's pretty charismatic to have his crew follow him the way they have for years. Yes, they are all in it to gain power for themselves, but the ability to sell a dream and a desire and infect people with that in the way that your dream becomes theirs, or they can see their dreams in what you want accomplished, is rooted in the charisma required to do such a heavy lifting and make such a convincing argument and sell it. And from the way that Blackbeard still has his people following him, we can say he has that down pat. Shanks, of course, is pretty obvious. I mean, the man had the charisma to step into the middle of a war and have both sides not only stop fighting but listen to him and go their separate ways. The red-haired pirates have a presence, and we see that reflected perfectly in their captain with his missing arm and the scar across his eyes. Shanks speaks and the world listens, both marines and pirates, and that speaks for itself. And of course, like, Luffy is charisma personified. I mean, look at him. He picks up allies effortlessly as he goes along, getting everybody to buy into his dreams and goals, even former foes. And we're able to see Buggy's charisma in full force with how the escaped prisoners from Impel Down hang on his every word, making him some kind of messiah in their eyes. Say what you will about him, but that is charisma in action. It's not the most logical of things, but the man has his following, and that is something the Gorosei fears. Powerful pirates with subordinates who seem to keep bouncing back, who never stay dead, who fate seems desperate to keep alive, and who have the charisma to lead people to follow them either into the depths of hell or to upend an entire system. And Buggy, even though he's a literal clown, fits all that to a T. He fits it, which is why they're scared and probably confused as fuck and why he's on that list. I mean, the Gorosei are probably running all over the place right now. Between Blackbeard, who played them and is now a major threat with powers that can destroy the whole world, to the small boy from the East Blue who they had ignored all this while only to discover that he has awakened a devil fruit that hasn't awoken in 800 years. To this clown who has a powerful group of subordinates who escaped from the inescapable Impel Down, was present at Marineford, escaped it with Red-Head Shanks, who it turned out he had known for years since they were both much younger and both apprentices on Rogers' ship, someone who even when they had him surrounded after the Shishibukai system was disbanded, clearly still survived. I do believe that just like everyone else on the new Yonko list that has the Gorosei befuddled, except for maybe Shanks. But then again, I'm pretty sure that somewhere in the Gorosei's minds, they are still not very sure of what Shanks' deal is. Like the rest of the fandom. But just like everyone on that list has them befuddled, Buggy has them befuddled too. They cannot figure out any of them, and that is why Buggy made the list. The new Yonkos have consolidated power that can wreck the world, Lady Luck on their side that seems to want them alive and thriving, the charisma to keep pulling people to support them, and an audacious disregard for the Gorosei's power. That is a recipe for a revolution that would burn down their world as it currently exists. Now, if you are curious as to what sets aside the OG Yonkos from this present newish set of Yonkos, I do have another video in the works that addresses that, so keep an eye out, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it, and wait for the new video to drop. Peace.